We often see him as a resource person in various FDPs and workshops conducted in UT and elsewhere. He has indigenously built an enterprise resource planning system in his college that helps in monitoring of all the academic activities in the college. His college has this unique distinction of in-house ERP system that no other education institute in the UT has. Congratulations, his contribution in helping the Department of Higher Education in building the digital infrastructure in various colleges of J&K has been acknowledged and appreciated by one and all. Congratulations, sir, once again. So I wish all the participants a very fruitful and productive session. With this, I cordially invite our guest speaker, Professor Zubair Saeed Masoodi, to come onto the dais and deliver the talk. Sir, please welcome.
तुमको जनरेटर नहीं क्या जी तो पता हो इजी पता बना इबु हम सुना बात इजी आज पर बना इबु जो का ठीक है सर जो का ठीक है सर बस बात तेरी कितना हाँ
Hello, hello, hello. Respected Principal Professor Phpmanager, all the distinguished participants of this FDP. Upfront apologies. There has been a bit of delay in getting started with this today's session. I got stuck somewhere, it was beyond my control, and then we had this initial technical glitch that took a bit of time. Now I guess we're all good to go, and we can formally start the today's session. I first of all want to congratulate Professor Phpmanager and the organizing committee of this FDP for organizing this session, 1 week FDP on use of ICT with special emphasis on LMS, and we are covering Moodle, Canvas, Sky, and Blackboard. We all know that this is a shift from that traditional digital, this conventional teaching to something which is very digital oriented. My lecture and my talk would be more focused on a hands-on session. We will be demonstrating something very exciting for all of you. But before I move to that, I would like you to ponder over this particular slide. This was an article published in one of a very reputed journals, I guess some 2 years back, in which the author says that artificial intelligence will not replace radiologists, but radiologists who use AI will replace radiologists who don't. Now you must be wondering as to what's the context of all this. What has AI got to do with the learning management system that we're talking here today? And in the course of this presentation, I'll try to contextualize what exactly is this. So we saw that medical imaging, the radiology took an absolutely new shape in the last couple of decades. And this author basically sends an alarm bell to all the radiologists. And he goes on to say that AI will not replace the radiologists, it's definitely not going to replace them. But radiologists who use AI will replace those radiologists who do not. In the next couple of slides, I'll once again come to it, but just keep it in the back of your mind so that a few slides later, I'll try to contextualize what I'm precisely talking about. So let's first have a quick look at screens like these. So what do we get to see from these? If you just try to ponder over a bit on these images that I'm displaying, something must have struck your mind, and which essentially is that we are actually seeing a completely different, a rapidly changing landscape. You see these students, these young kids, these boys holding these handheld devices, these tablets, these computers all the time, whether they are in a classroom or whether they are in a school or whatever they are doing. You find them. So this rapidly changing landscape is something that we must be thinking about. And if you ask me what is this, I will say this is tectonic. What has evolved in the last couple of years has been really tectonic. I would ideally begin this session by asking a question to all the distinguished participants of this FDP. If I ask them a question, what's your take on use of technology in education? I wish we had something in place where we could take a quick opinion poll and get to know from our distinguished audience as to what is the take of our of these learned colleagues on the use of technology in education. I'm pretty sure that an overwhelming majority of these participants will be convincingly arguing against the use of technology. However, I also believe there will be a significant number of participants who would definitely be voicing their opinion in support of use of technology. Now, let me explain that with an example. If you just come across a student and you find him holding a laptop or a tablet or a mobile phone, and he's just streaming Netflix on that, or maybe doing some TikTok stuff, or maybe chatting with someone, probably you'll build an opinion in your mind that this technology has been, without a doubt, a needless distraction that we are seeing. And all of us, most of us have kids at our home, and we always keep on rebuking our children due to overuse of these devices. So good, fine, makes a lot of sense. At the same time, if you just instantly happen to see a student who's holding a, let's say, a laptop or a tablet, and he's basically using this to browse some resources, or maybe using doing some cross-referencing on internet, or just watching some video that's with regard to his curriculum, what he's drawing. So you might be having a feel that, yes, this guy is basically benefiting out of the technology. So you have one set of people who are arguing against this, another set of people who are arguing for it. But whether you argue for it or whether you disagree with it, there is something that still remains fact, a truth. The truth being that we have witnessed a watershed transformation in education in the last 2 decades, especially in terms of technology. And what we have seen is apps like these being hosted on different app stores and play stores, what we get to see is a lot of learning management systems being rolled out. What we get to see is things like these. But having said that, I remember an instance. I was teaching computer sciences to my classroom, and I instantly, one of the students caught my attention. And when I went to him, he was in the back seat. When I went to him, I found him doing something on a mobile phone, which was quite distracting. And it literally hurt me. When I found him, I was in full force teaching them a particular topic, and I just visited and found him doing something which was not very healthy. It really hurt me. And I went to home, I thought about it. I thought there is some space, something that really is exciting him, something that he is willing to even spend his time on, even though he's in the classroom. I guess it was 2015 then. Or 2015 it was. So when I went home, I thought I had one of my brothers who is a medical professional, and they were using some technology in the United States, and he had a discussion with me sometime earlier, and I had this in the back of my mind, why not introduce a stuff like this? So I went back, I set up a course on Google Classroom. It was launched in 2014, and I set up a course on Google Classroom, and I got my students enrolled for that. What I witnessed personally, and I'm telling you a story, what I witnessed personally was something I've never imagined in my life. In the course of next 1 month, I found an overwhelming majority of my students engaging themselves with my Google Classroom, to the extent that I saw them talking to me midnight, sending across the messages, commenting on the different posts that I was posting, watching different videos, and discussing with their fellow colleagues in the middle of the night. Well, that was something that was really heartening to see. And trust me on that, I felt that intervention was regenerating. It literally gave an entirely different dimension to my class. When I would see a student buzzing and writing something at 8 o'clock, when otherwise that student would be doing something else, his fellow colleagues literally got encouraged to see that some of their counterparts are doing something and probably he's lagging behind. That environment triggered something that really proved to be beneficial. And you will be very happy to know that this guy, this student, in the year 2020, he secured his position in University of Pennsylvania, and he's pursuing his research in computer sciences in that university. There are 3 reasons to believe in technology. Now, why I'm focusing more on technology is because there's a diverse opinion. We still have a significant number of people who are saying this is creating a lot of trouble for us. But then there are still a good number of people who are saying that this is creating. Now, there are reasons for that. If you just ponder over what we have witnessed in the last couple of years in the form of pandemic, we see that it has thrown a lot of challenges to all of us. If we talk of technology there, we see that there was a lot of academic dishonesty. When we were conducting exams, we found students were resorting to many unfair means, and we totally started believing that this is ruining the career of these students. But at the same time, this was the only communication channel we had, and we could still roll out the things to our students in these trying times. So whether or not we believe in this, there is something that's definitely going to happen. And what's going to happen is that the bell is going to ring. The bell will be run in the next 1 decade. And we'll get to see that if we don't embrace this technology now, if we don't start adopting this technology now, then probably will be the same radiologists who will be replaced by radiologists who are using AI. We are already witnessing something in that direction by the department in the form of LMSs being rolled out in different colleges. And we genuinely have to start thinking about bringing a transformation. Generally, when we talk to teachers, we find them that they are finding it very difficult initially to adopt to these technologies. When they are asked to curate the content, when they are asked to create some courses or do some stuff, they find it difficult. But we don't see the other side of the story. The other side of the story is, can you imagine that as a good quality teacher, if you're really good in teaching, this technology actually offers you something which you can never imagine? And what's that? That is, you can broad base your audience. You can no longer limit yourself to those 20 or 30 students. You can basically reach out to a much wider, bigger audience and do some real value addition to the society. And you have ample examples of that. If on the one side, I talked about the academic dishonesty the students were resorting to during these last 2 years. But on the other side, let me also give an example that we just, I guess, 15, 20 days back, witnessed a news coming from one of the villages of this Kashmir Valley that a student who secured a top rank in NEET 2021 basically did not take any kind of coaching. And when she was interviewed, and she said, I did not receive any formal coaching from any institute. But then she was, how would she manage? She said, I have been starting YouTube since 2019. So isn't that another dimension to this technology? It's time that we think on these lines and see that how technology can be redefined, how education can be redefined using the technology. In the course of today's presentation, I'll be talking about the different learning management systems that are available. Since this is a hands-on session, I've been asked to deliver a hands-on session. So I'll be deploying Moodle on a live server and hopefully get all of you enrolled in that to give you a first-hand overview of what it brings to you. And then we can talk about different Moodle features that are available for us to use. And the first question is, what is a learning management system? And why should we use learning management system? What does it bring to us? If you go by a Wikipedia definition of learning management system, it says it's a software application for administration, documentation, tracking, reporting, automation, and delivery of educational resources, training programs, or learning and development programs. Now, each single word has a meaning, and it carries a lot of weight. To begin with, let me talk about what LMS brings to us. You know that if you talk of the schools that operate in Finland, if you talk of schools that operate in United Kingdom, the Northbridge chain of schools, or for that matter, United States, they adopted to a learning pedagogy that's called as flipped learning. Finland schooling is considered as one of the best schooling in the world. And Finland actually adapted to something called as flipped learning, long back. And what is a flipped learning? In a flipped learning, we basically move the direct instruction, which we normally do in a classroom, to the individual learning space. And the classroom space is basically used more for interactive and engaging activities. There are convincing reasons why we should be using flipped learning. But since this talk is not about flipped learning, we can have a discussions on flipped learning, what it offers and what it brings. But that's a subject of discussion maybe for some other workshop. What LMS brings to us is a reusable content. Now imagine I'm a teacher who has to teach 6 semesters. Let's say history I have to teach, or education I have to teach for 6 semesters. If I start building my course for first semester, and I start basically organizing in such a way that I'm actually covering every single aspect and every single dimension of this course, and I basically create a huge repository of content, which I would like to roll out in the course of my class over a semester. And then what can I do basically? I can reuse this content. We normally prepare a lecture for a particular topic, and then we don't keep it with us. But if I start preparing this lecture, and I basically start curating resources around this lecture, let's say, for instance, this history class, I delivered a lecture on history class. I created 4 multiple choice questions for that. And I basically put this whole thing in a learning management system. And next year, when I again start the same course, different set of students, I can reuse those objectives. I can reuse those multiple choice questions. I can go on and on and on and build this content, build this repository over a period of time. And I can basically channelize my approach in more beneficial directions, in the directions where I can only improve myself as a teacher. Now, most often than not, we always have this requirement of assessing our learners, of assessing our students. So conventional method, conventional way is to set them a question paper and take the answers and evaluate them offline. But if we have a mechanism in place where we can do this assessment in such a way that we can get better insights of each of the students, in such a way that if in a classroom you have 80 students or 90 students or 100 students, you can basically, with the help of a learning management system, be able to individualize the learning. In a traditional classroom setup, in a conventional way, we might not be able to address to each of the students individually. But once I'm basically generating some kind of insights, and those insights are available to me, I can basically personalize my learning. I can give more focus to that students. I can probably address his needs in a better way. And I can basically let them and create a platform for them to collaborate in such a way that they can benefit from each other. And the best way of learning is a collaborative learning, right? One of the most important dimensions of this learning management system is that over a period of 6 months or 5 months of the semester, we can basically actively monitor the progress of a student. Actively monitor every specific dimension that entails in an academic semester. And in the course of this presentation, I'll be demonstrating some part of it, how we can monitor basically the progress of a student. Now, if we have to curate our resources and share some multimedia with the students, one option is to send them on a WhatsApp or give it some way. But if we are able to find some best multimedia support, it could be some external tools, or it could be something that you have recorded or yourself developed. You can basically put that in this learning management system and reuse that content. IIT Bombay did a project called as Bodhi Tree. And that was an amazing project in a way that the teacher records his entire lecture. But sometimes what happens that when you give this 20-minute lecture to a student to see, this student, the teacher, first of all, does not know whether or not that student has watched that lecture. If at all he has watched the lecture, how curiously has he actually watched that lecture? So in that project, they basically created a provision of embedding the multiple choice questions after every 5 minutes or 7 minutes, so that while the student is watching a particular video of a particular resource, you're basically asking repeated questions to the students, seeing that whether or not that student has actually learned from that video or not. Scalability is one of the biggest advantages of learning management system. Now, what does scalability mean? Scalability means that if in a particular class I have 40 students, but this class grows up to 120 students, what would I do? We often rush to the head of the institution with the complaints that I'm unable to manage these number of students. So this becomes a big challenge. We cannot scale it up. We literally cannot scale up 120 students in a classroom. But with a learning management system in place, at least this gives you some space that you can scale up the things. Not in terms of student enrollment only, but you can basically broad base your audience also. You can reach to a much better audience. And more important than not, you can basically have access to the remote learners. I remember Dr. Fahim Masoodi, he gave his lecture on day 1 here. In 2019, he started a Moocs course on design and analysis of algorithms. When we were going through that registrations, I was so glad to see that he has had students from IIT Bangalore, he had students from IIT Kanpur, he had students from IIT Kharagpur. I mean, then how heartening it was. A guy who comes from a seemingly remote place, if you compare it in terms of the city centers or New Delhi, and he's able to reach out, or students are basically benefiting from this guy who's living in the countryside. Now, how heartening was that? And he had over 7,000 or 8,000 registrations in that first course that he launched. Well, how was that possible? Was that possible if we go in a conventional mode? So LMS brings you that opportunity. You're basically able to access remote learners who can be sitting somewhere else and still able to benefit out of your teaching skills. Few challenges we get, and I believe you all will agree with me, once we get into the first semester students, most of the students do not turn up because they are mostly preparing for some competitive examinations. But towards the end of the session, towards the end of the semester, when they're up over with that examinations, they tend to know what has happened because they are due to write their exams. They start asking, how can I do that? If you have been able to build up your course on an LMS system and a student still willing to take that exam, you can basically give access to that student and he can basically self-learn that things. He needs not to go back to you. He can at least do some sort of a justice to the exams and access all the material that you have done. And there are a lot of other advantages and benefits that learning management systems bring to us. For instance, one more thing that I'd like to say is that if you have a set of students in a class, you agree that most of them are not of the same cognitive abilities. Some have less cognitive abilities, some are extremely brilliant. So you can bridge that gap by way of curating the resources so that this student who is seemingly less intelligent, he can still have a complete access to the system and he can revisit that lecture any number of times and bridge that classroom gap, because a teacher cannot go on and on with the same topic. He has constraints in terms of time. He can deliver a lecture, finish that and move to the next topic. But if there is one student who is not able to comprehend everything, you still are providing a space to him he read that lecture, rethink his strategy, relearn the concepts, and that's only possible if you're basically building some learning management system. So this is the introductory part of my session, and I'm just trying to rebuild that confidence in the people that technology offers us something that we all can benefit from. And we just need to re-strategize ourselves. We just need to think out of the box. And the fact remains that even if we don't, it isn't going to be an obligation. You must agree with me that when the pandemic started, initially, a good number of people were finding it very difficult to acclimatize themselves with the technology. But once things started to streamline, we learned tools. So we had certain inhibitions. We had certain apprehensions, but those apprehensions, those inhibitions, we managed to deal with. So on the same lines, we still have people who have a contrarian view on use of learning management systems. But once we start adopting to learning management systems, I'm telling you, and I'm telling you with all authority at my command, that you will really find it beneficial as a teacher. Forget about everything. Forget about the monetary benefits. Forget about, but you can basically repackage yourself as a teacher. You can basically rethink on a different paradigm. You can actually bring in something to the students which even they might not have imagined. And I'm telling you, we have experienced it. We have seen it firsthand. We are seeing it now. We have rolled out learning management systems in our college, as the ma'am told in her opening remark. Ma'am will agree with me that we used to have students complaining to us every now and then that this teacher did not teach us this. And when exams would come, and we would have a lot of students flooding the office and telling us, oh, she never taught us this, she never taught us this. Or maybe we have academic arrangement teachers in place and they tell, oh, but this teacher didn't tell us this thing. Once we rolled out ERP system and LMS, we recorded every single academic activity in the pandemic, every small activity, to the extent that the parents were actually monitoring what's going on from their homes. We can tell you now what happened on 1st of April 2020, who delivered lecture, who were the students, what was the lecture, what was the topic, which unit he covered, what was the outcome. So that brought a completely different environment in our college. We had these teachers. Should not be taken in a way that I'm critical of some people, not at all. But I will still say, for the sake of an argument, that we still had some teachers who would evade their responsibilities, who would at times, for their comfort, skip a class. But once we rolled out a learning management system, we were able to track it down, whether or not that teacher has taken the class. And that's basically sent an environment, a vibrant environment was created. Every teacher made the point that he delivers a class. And if he doesn't deliver a class, he's being monitored, he's being asked. So we have a success story. We have a success story to tell, and we have a success story to share with all of us. That we made a change, we brought a change. I am not praising the college, I'm not praising the LMS. All I'm trying to say is rethink, repackage yourself, and reveal the power of learning management systems, and reveal the power of enterprise resource planning. You have a lot to explore, and the world brings a lot to you. We just need to think on it. We just need to put these inhibitions behind us and move forward and see what's in offer. So, since talking about why flipping a classroom, I said this will be somebody's point of discussion for some other. Otherwise, I have many reasons to tell you as to why this picture speaks about it, why we should be going in a full flipped learning pedagogy, why we should be considering these things, and this picture talks about that. But since we know we have time constraint and I have a lot to cover, so I'll be skipping this for now. If you look at this thing, this is a course of machine learning that's offered by Stanford. So if you look at the number of enrollments you have around 28 lakh 59,769 students, so roughly around 30 lakh students benefiting from a single teacher. So imagine, how is it possible? And then you're branding yourself. You see the ratings, how many ratings and reviews this teacher has got, and he has been able to showcase himself on a global platform. Imagine the reputation he has built. Let's say, for sake of argument, that I'm doing it for myself. Imagine the reputation he has been able to build for himself. These statistics speak of his ability. These statistics talk about his skill set. And these things should encourage us. This is the thing. If we just think of our work starting at 10 and closing down at 4, then we will be definitely missing out of opportunities that a course like this, that a platform like this presents to us. Respected participants, this is a screenshot of 2019. And these are my students engaged in a Google Classroom that we rolled out. And for me, it was an achievement, a personal achievement, who were engaged in a learning environment that regenerated their approach to courses, to taking courses, to the colleges. Now, enough about a motivational thing. Why do we need learning management systems and what it brings to us? Let's now talk about something more specific and discuss upon which learning management system we should be choosing. There are a lot of them in offering. One of the learning management system is Coursera. I'm very sure most of our learning participants already know about Coursera and what it brings to the global audience, the global learners. Over 3,000 courses being run by this single platform and 82 million students benefiting from Coursera. And who are using it? You have Berkeley, you have Harvard, you have MIT, University of Pennsylvania, Rice. These are the big institutes of the world. You all know it. If they can use it, if they can benefit it, why not we? Why shouldn't we be benefiting? What holds us back from basically benefiting out of these solutions? If you talk of Edx, MOOCs was the concept that was launched, and MHRD also embraced that concept in 2014. And Edx became the front runner in actually providing MOOC platform for the faculty and the students. Over 12,000 courses of MOOCs are available on Edx. And universities like Imperial College, Oxford, Princeton, Caltech, they're all using Edx. I'm just running you through some of the learning management systems so that you can get some insight into what are the different LMSs that are available there. You have Udacity, one of the very, very popular learning system. Even I have a subscription of Udacity for some of my courses. And there are a lot of them basically for using Udacity for their trainings, for learnings. The corporates are using for their trainings stuff. Now, one of the most popular but very expensive learning management system is a Blackboard. Blackboard has a lot of features, but the hindsight is, for us, it's not affordable. For us, it's a bit of a challenge in terms of deploying Blackboard. There's another learning management system called as Canvas. Canvas is an open source learning management system. And what is an open source learning management system? Open source learning management system means this software has been built by an organization, but the entire source code of this organization is available to us. This is free of cost. Anyone can use Canvas and take advantage of this. and rebuild and customize it for their own needs. But hindsight, Canvas has been built upon a technology called Ruby on Rails. The problem is that we don't get adequate resources who can be used to customize and enrich the Canvas platform. 2014, Google launched its Google Classroom. There was an initiative called as Google for Education. And we all know most of us have been using Google Classroom. But in terms of the features that are available in Google Classroom, we have certain constraints that we have to deal with. In addition to that, we have other learning management systems. And I'm displaying some of them here on the screen. This was all about the learning management systems. And the one that I have decided and I was asked to basically talk about is called as Moodle. Moodle is a free open source learning management system developed in 2002 by an Australian company, and it's used in 200 countries and over 100 plus languages. It's headquartered in Australia. And the best part is that it's the most popular free and open source learning management system. It's considered as a huge boost for teachers if they adapt to learning management system. Now the question here would be, if there are so many options available, why Moodle? Why only Moodle? And what advantage does each one of them has their distinctive features, no doubt about that. But I am advocating Moodle, and there's a reason for that. And why should we be adapting to Moodle? The reason is that this particular LMS can be integrated with Google Apps, with Microsoft Apps. This is built in collaboration, so you have a huge open source community contributing to this learning management system. You have the features like discussions, group activity, forms, videos, and you can basically engage students through various social media learning platforms. It's a multilingual platform and available in over 100 languages. Highly scalable platform. And it has a huge inbuilt security features that ensures that you're secure from any attacks. Moodle gives you a provision for offline delivery of the content. And the best part being that it's available on your mobile phones. So you can basically leverage Moodle from your mobile phone. Your students can benefit out of the Moodle from the mobile phones. And then there's a lot of training libraries, which is the most challenge for all of the faculties, is to get themselves trained. So training is available for Moodle. A lot of training is available for Moodle. So students can easily get themselves, and teachers can get themselves trained from the learning resources that we have available for Moodle trainings. So that is why we prefer Moodle, and it's released under free open source license. So you have complete access to the source code, and you can basically customize it as per your needs. There's a huge community available which are there to help you. Anytime you get stuck at anything, you have a lot of people who are there to help you out. Moodle has the largest community around available from all the LMSs we have. Now we will talk about Moodle and try to get more into Moodle and see how stuff can work. So we'll see what is a Moodle, how to deploy and access it, what are the different course formats available, an overview of some Moodle features, activities and resources, the learning activities, how you can embed the external resource in Moodle, and how you can basically deploy it in a cloud space. So once I talk of deployment, how this is deployed. So from here onwards, my talk is going to be more technical in nature. So some of you who might not be able to understand it fully, just take it like this. Maybe even if it does 5% of value addition, 5% just gives you insight into what it is. I think that should be a takeaway from me, because we are for the first time trying to learn a concept which, if we really believe has some promise, this should serve as an encouragement for us to take that thing something more further. So first thing is how to deploy a solution. Now this is more for those people in the colleges who are technical, who are given the assignment of building some LMS system, so they cloud-based system is internet connection का फिर से आ गया issue. I'm already unmuted. ये internet का थोड़ा सा issue आ रहा है. Now it's audible. Yes, we can. Of course, there's no problem. Please check again if I'm audible. Okay. Okay, so I was talking about the deployment options. Deployment options means how you can get started with Moodle. What do we need to do in order to set up the Moodle? The simplest and the easiest way to get yourself okay. So how to get started with Moodle? The first and the most easiest option is to use Moodle in cloud. What does that mean? That means you just don't have to do anything. Your institute or your US Love can just pay to Moodle. Moodle has an offering, a commercial offering. So you just have to pay to them and they can set up a Moodle for yourself. So nothing to be done. All it takes is the money. You give the money and they can customize, deploy Moodle in one day. So good to go. But amount that you need to spend could be a consideration. The simplest and the best way would be to self-host Moodle. Deploy Moodle on your own servers. So that is one that we have done. We have a server in place on a cloud and we have deployed Moodle on our own server. So in that case, you don't have to pay. You just have to have one-time cost and then put this software on that server and let the people use that software. In the year 2021, a lot of money was pumped in by Department of Higher Education and colleges were given provisions to procure servers. I know many of the colleges have done that, yet we see some colleges who have not adequately used that server. You can either deploy that on an in-premise or on-premise, which means what? You can deploy this LMS on your own, in your own network, and you don't have to do anything. You have a server, you have a software free of cost. Deploy it on your own network, use it within the college. Option 2, take your own cloud server, something that we have done. Deploy this Moodle onto the cloud server, and the advantage it brings is that your students can access it from their home because it's on the internet. Third thing about the deployment options, you have a free Moodle app available on the Play Store or an App Store. You can always download Moodle and start using the Moodle. Fourth option is a desktop app. Microsoft or Linux, both of them have a desktop apps available for Moodle, so you can install them and you start using those apps. If we talk of Moodle Cloud, how much it costs you? If it's a very starter edition and your number of users are very less, like say 50 users, for a personal thing. If your institute does not give you that provision of setting up a Moodle, do it for yourself. As a teacher, we can afford to invest this much of money and set up our own courses. Let the students from across all colleges who like your teaching access your resources. So set it up. This is not a huge investment. It's a very small investment we can do. Teachers can afford that investment. And then there are different plans that are available that you can use for colleges, like $370 US, or there's another enterprise planning that's $2,700 US, which typically colleges can do in order to have their Moodle up in the cloud and start using that. But I would encourage you not to go in this mode. If you want to do it on a personal thing, you can have it. But if you don't want it on an institutional level, then set up your own cloud server. Set up the cloud server and get started with the things. You can do that quite easily. Now, the next thing would be, I'll install Moodle. I often find people who are willing to go, but they don't know how to install the Moodle, what needs to be done. So from here onwards, it will be more of a technical part. In the next 10 to 10 minutes, I'll be hopefully installing Moodle on a live server. After installing it on a live server, I'll give you the account access. You can just log into my server and we'll start doing something hands-on here in this workshop itself so that you can get some insight. So now I'm switching over and I'll go into the server. I'm connecting with my remote server. That's where we will deploy the Moodle. Okay, I'm just changing my screen share because now I'll stop and share my entire screen with you. ये आ गया ना, हाँ, दिस इज व्हाट आई वांट, दिस इज द स्क्रीन, ठीक है, ओके, आ गया ना स्क्रीन। सो लेट्स नाउ ट्राई टू, अब पुश करते हैं हम लाइव सर्वर पे जाके Moodle को इंस्टॉल करने की कोशिश करेंगे, उसके बाद हम कोर्सेज मैनेज करेंगे और सारा कुछ करने की कोशिश। सिंस दिस इज अ हैंड्स ऑन सेशन, I apologize some of you who may not be able to follow up all the steps, and still bear with me. All right. अगर आप ये steps सिर्फ याद रखेंगे, it should be more than enough. Just have a look what I'm going to do. Okay, so the first step is that we have to log on to our server. जो भी हमारा server होगा अपने पास, Moodle को install करने, in order to install the Moodle, what are the software packages that we require? First of all, we need Moodle software itself, which is available for free. So you can go to moodle.com/downloads, go there and download the software. The software is available in two operating systems. You can download it for Windows, or you can download it for Linux. So it's your choice what you want to download it for. So once that is downloaded, it's a zip package, almost of 50 MB size. Once it's downloaded on your server, the next thing that will require is a database. So you need a backend database in which all the data is to be stored. With regard to the options of the database, you have two options. Option one is that you can use Microsoft SQL Server. Option two is that you can use MySQL. Microsoft SQL Server database is a paid version. You have to pay for it. Its Express edition is available, but it's limited in terms of the size. Option two is you can use MySQL. MySQL is free and open source. No problem with that. So I would encourage you to use MySQL. But in case you already have a Microsoft SQL Server, you can also use Microsoft SQL Server, because running two database servers on a same machine can have some performance issues. So you're not constrained to use MySQL. If you have Microsoft SQL Server already on the server, use that. It takes a bit of time to basically set up with the MS SQL Server, because there are some integration issues, like in terms of ODBS issues, some driver issues that you have to configure in order to get it running. But little bit of tweaking, you should be able to run it easily. The third thing that you need is you need a web server. So web servers can be two types. Either it can be an internet information server, the one that we're going to use for this demo, or it can be an Apache Tomcat server, which is a free. You can use any of the servers. But for the sake of this demo, I'm going to use Internet Information Server. Okay? All right. So if you look at this folder here, first of all, there is this Moodle setup that I have already downloaded, because if I start downloading it right now from the server, it might take bit of our time. So the next thing is, in order to run Moodle, because it has been written using PHP, so you need to have PHP also installed on the server. So you have to install PHP on the server. That's the second thing that you require. Third thing that you require is, since we are going to an IIS, so you need a PHP server manager, which will help you to customize and execute the PHP inside the IIS. And then you need to have web platform installer. With that installer, you can basically help to do some configuration settings inside your PHP inside the IIS. I know it will be going over the head of some of the participants, but even if there are 2 or 3% of the participants who are keen to learn the things, these things will be very, very handy, because getting Moodle installed is one of the biggest challenges that people face. People don't know how to install it, and they end up leaving it there. They don't pursue it. So these things can help you out. So I'm just showing you, first of all, the web server on which I'm going to install it. This is my college live web server. Yes. Yeah, in case you find it difficult, you can always follow it up on YouTube. So if you see that we already have some of the websites that are operating from our servers. We have an ERP server, we have a college website, we have an admissions website already done. So we have this LMS also. LMS software is already on our servers. So you can see what already we have. Now I'm going to set up one Moodle site for this demo. So I'm first of all going to create a new Moodle site. So I'll say add website. I will give a name. Let's suppose www dot, I name it demo. Okay, demo dot. Since it's on our servers, so I'm going to use my server. So gdcw support.edu.in. Okay, I'm setting up a website. I'm just first of all going to create a directory. I can maybe use mouse also. So I'm creating one this directory, and I'm saying it demo.gdcw support.edu.in. Inside this, I'm going to create one. Oh, there's a problem with the mouse. It's not giving me complete control on the mouse. मैं कोशिश करूंगा ऐसे इसको चलाने की, थोड़ा सा दिक्कत हो रहा है, तो go very fast. No problem, no problem. So what I did is that I'm creating a website. I'm creating some directories, and I'm just going to that directory. I'm assigning the IP that I have, and I'm giving it a name. So first of all, what I have done is I have created a new website, which is demo.gdcwsupport.edu.in. On this site, I'm going to set up the Moodle. So once I go here, I have already created one user called as Moodle DB user. Or I can go ahead and create a new user. Yes, yes, we'll be doing that. Yes, we'll be doing that. So I'm logging in and creating a new database. I call it demo Moodle DB. So this is where my entire data will be residing. So I'm going to create a new user. I'm going to name it demo Moodle user. And I'm going to give a password to this. So let's keep that in mind, that we have created a user. Because otherwise you tend to forget these things. So you can just note it down. We have created a database because these are the settings that we will require.
मतलब 18 को वापस 16 को जाने
16 को जाना शाम को वापस 18 को जाना 18 को वापस
मतलब शाम को कौन है
पोस्टमैन अपने 18 की डेट चेंज कर
Mouse is creating a lot of trouble. I don't know if something is happening with the mouse. Mouse मुझे बहुत प्रॉब्लम कर रहा है. बात कुछ रखने नहीं दे रहा है. हाँ हम नीचे बैठ के करूँ वो मेरे ख्याल से ज़्यादा लग रहा है. इसको चार्ज भी इसको चार्जर भी लगा है. ये देना इधर ऑडियो यहाँ से जाएगा. अच्छे से. स्क्रीन ना बहुत ये कर रहा है. So I'm now connecting with the new user that I created. I know it will be a bit irritating because the mouse is creating a bit of problems. After installing, after getting the, now you see that we have created a user and we have set up a database also. The next thing would be to install the Moodle. So we copy the software that we already have. We can just extract it here. After extracting it, we will have this here, and you can just cut it from here. Go back to the directory where you created demo Moodle and set it up here. So you have already copied all the software requirements. You also need Moodle data directory that we have also created. We need to give requisite permissions. So we'll try to give all the permissions to this directory. These are the advanced permissions that it will ask you.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम ठीक আছে স্যার ठीक পড়ালা
Permissions here. This will set all the necessary permissions that are required by the web server on this directory. After this has been done, remember, since I am going to go in a live server mode, I need to go to my server manager and create a DNS entry. Set up a DNS entry so that this URL can be publicly accessible. Sometimes it takes a lot of time for DNS to propagate. So you go to DNS manager. You get a DNS manager here. It's coming with a bit of delay, so please pardon me. So I go inside my DNS manager. I set up a forward lookup zone, a new zone. I can name it primary zone. I can name it demo.gdcwsupport.edu.in. Please remember, it takes some time for DNS to propagate. So it might not be available right away. It takes sometimes a lot of time for DNS to propagate, but we are setting up the entry now. So we are creating a new forward lookup zone. And inside this forward lookup zone, we are going to create a DNS entry type A record, which is called a host record. So I can say, I just need to copy the IP before that so that I don't forget the IP. My IP is this. I can go ahead here and create a new DNS host entry. I can name it demo.gdcwsupport.edu.in and give this particular IP here. The host record has been created. So both the host records have been created. Now it means for DNS propagation, it takes a bit of time for DNS to propagate. In the meantime, I can go back to my IIS. I can configure the basic settings. I can configure the permissions also. Ensure that all permissions have been set. I'm giving permissions. Okay. So now, if I try to browse, here we have, this is on a live server beginning the installation of Moodle. So we can have it demo.gdcwsopo.edu.in install.php. So it's asking us to set up, install the Moodle now. So we can go ahead and start installation. The first thing it will ask about is the language. So we can choose English. We can then go ahead and confirm that the paths have been correctly set. So the website address has to be www.demo.gdcwsopo.edu.in. The paths have been correctly set. There's a data directory called as Moodle directory. Moodle data. We can go ahead. These paths are correct. We can go ahead. Please remember that sometimes these things are very challenging. Sometimes you have to do a lot of tweaking. Sometimes it's but you have to be very have to have a lot of passion about it. If you feel distracted, if you feel kind of it's getting over your nerves, you might leave it in midway. But सबसे बड़ी बात जो इसमें है वो सब्र तहम्मुल है, because once you're setting up things like this, it forces a lot of challenges on you. So once it throws challenges, you need to find a way to deal with these challenges. So now we are trying to find a database driver which we are going to use. As I said, we can use multiple database, PostgreSQL, we can use Oracle, we can use SQL Server, or you can use MariaDB. But for this demo, since we are using MySQL, so we are choosing MySQL. Now it is going to ask me what is the database name, what is the database user, his password and database port. So I can say my database user that I have already saved is this. My database that I have created for this demo it's quite possible that some of the participants might be finding it a bit too tough, but then this session is actually for this thing only. Yeah, a lot of technicalities indeed. So we are setting up a database that we are going to connect with. We are setting up the database user. We are going to specify the password for that user. I have actually skipped many of the things that I found, because if I delve into those things, it was going to take a lot of time. So for instance, setting up PHP on a server and configuring PHP and configuring php.ini, those are requisite things that need to be done. But because if I get into those things, we'll not be able to complete this demo. So I'm just trying to see to it that this demo basically, so we have to find the port number. Often you will find what is the port that we are connecting to. So port number is here 3306. So we have to specify my port number is 3306. So I can say my port number is 3306. This is the prefix that is going to create. Next, what it will try to do is it will try to connect to this database server and try to set up the Moodle on that database server. So if everything goes well, we should be able to find that Moodle is getting installed. And may also tell all my distinguished participants here that in case you anytime find any difficulty setting up a Moodle, you can always reach out. We can help you out. So now that you see that installation has been done, database has been set up, it's asking for some agreement to the various licenses that it has. So we can go ahead safely and click confirm. So once it says confirm, this is the checklist that the server checks that everything has been set correctly. Often what you will see is you will have this Unicode error here. It will show an error. But because I have already configured the php.ini, which is the configuration file of PHP to allow Unicode, you must not get scared if you find an error here. You can just go ahead and I can show you where php.ini file is. You can go here, add these particular entries there, and this should solve the problem. So retry it 2-3 times, it will easily. Then you'll also have some extensions, PHP extensions like opcache, and then extension limits also. So if you see some, like for instance, if you're seeing here, a couple of errors are here, right? One of the error it shows is that this site is not an HTTPS. So HTTPS is a secure site. So since we are doing it for demo purposes and we don't have a secure server certificate with us because that costs us a lot of money, so we can safely go ahead and say for now, we can let it happen, work on HTTP instead of an HTTPS secure server. So a lot of these configurations need to be done. You can always check if the things have been set correctly. You can go to your IIS. On the IIS, there is something called as Phpmanager. You can see it here. This is Phpmanager. Phpmanager tells us where your PHP is, and there is something called as check PHP info. So this will tell us whether PHP has been configured correctly for this server or not, or what are the shortcomings in that. You can click on PHP info, select the server, and it will show you how PHP has been configured on your server. If there is anything that you don't find, that means you have to go in and configure that correctly. So you go back, and if you have multiple versions of the PHP on your server installed, you can check which particular version I want to do. For instance, on my server, I have installed 3 versions of PHP. So I can go ahead and check, you can see these are different versions of PHP that installed because I keep on upgrading the Moodle, and every upgrade requires me a different version of a PHP. So that's why you see multiple versions of PHP installed on the server. Since for this demo, I'm going to use this version, but you can always register a different version or let your instance of Moodle use a particular version of PHP that you would like to do. So those things are here. So this I showed you just because I want, and my PHP file is here. If you look at this, see program files, IIexpress PHP 7.2 php.ini. So I can go ahead there also, show this where this file is. So let me take you there. If it's a bit boring, but you can maybe, if you're really passionate about learning this thing, you can stay. So see program files, IIexpress. So I go into my IIexpress. I go to PHP, that's which I have extracted at this location. I go to my specific version, and there is something called as php.ini. This is the file, this file. So I'm just opening this file so that you can see where the configurations are done. So all the configuration, whenever during the installation, if you find that something is not working, that means there's a problem with the configuration. So you can enable those configurations by going through. Since this is not the time that I can basically run you through all the configurations here, there are lots and lots of configurations that you have to do. But for the sake of this demo, I'm just trying to give you an overview of what are the different configurations that are available there. So these are the things that you might have to check in order to get your Moodle installation done correctly. So having said that, I'm going to move forward and take you to the next step of the Google Moodle installation. So after this checklist is done, if it shows correctly okay on all the parts, all the configurations, you can see that there are two configurations, but these are warning types. These are not the checks. In case there was a configuration that was required, which is not enabled, then it will not allow you to proceed. But because all configurations are done, it shows okay on all configurations, and it shows certain error warning checks on couple of configurations. Those are the ones we can still manage. We can go ahead and click on the continue. So if I click on the continue, the next step would be, it will now start telling us to set up the admin accounts. Because my internet is a bit unstable and I'm getting a warning sign about it. I hope it's being transmitted correctly and the participants are able to see what's going on. You can see, I mean, this is not something, this is doing a lot of things behind the scene. That's why it's taking a lot of time, because it's creating thousands of configurations behind the scene. The installation takes time. So you have to be very soft about it and don't try to rush into it and keep clicking on the buttons on and off. You just have to be patient and let it proceed the way it is. Again, this is something, if you are opting for a Moodle Cloud, you need not to do these things, because these are the things that will be done by the Moodle commercial suppliers. But since we are installing it on our own server, that's why we are doing it. If you are using a Moodle Cloud, these things are done for you. They do it for you, but they charge you. So waiting for this process to complete. Okay, here we go. The installation part is done. It's giving me the prompt, what has been done. Everything shows success. So nothing has failed. In case there was some problem, you will get a failure notice here. And you should always try to go back and check what's creating problems. If we have faculties from the Department of Computer Sciences from different colleges, they can pay attention to this, because this might be a task given to them to set it up. So you can always look into the things if everything has been set up correctly. Thankfully, in this particular installation, everything has been set up correctly. So we are proceeding and we're continuing with the installation. In the meantime, you can do one thing, all of you, or let's try to do this thing first. Okay, now this is the this is where we are going to create the administrators of your learning management systems. Okay, so some configurations that we need to do. Let's keep it like this. Username as admin. We can do whatever username we want to keep. It's our prerogative. So we can set up a password. I'm giving a password here. So next time it says force password change, so that next time when somebody tries to log in, it can force you to change the password. So I'm saying first name as demo LMS admin. Email address I can specify. Let's suppose I specify the email address as this. Obviously, you'll have to give your own email address, whatever pertains to you. So I can specify my country. Let's suppose this is Baramulla, where we're operating from. And then select a country, which is India. Time zone is already given. So we can go ahead, and there are a lot of settings here. But for the sake of installation, we need not to, because these are phonetic names and some other optional parameters, like we can set up the Skype ID, we can set up Yahoo ID of our because sometimes people from outside also want to join your course. They would probably need these things in order to reach out to you. So these are the things which can skip also. So I'm saying update my profile, but please remember the password. Please remember the username that you have created, because this is the one that you're going to use in order to access your LMS. And you're going to be the super admin of this LMS. All the users, all the professors, all the teachers have to be created by you. So this is very important that you remember your username and password that you have created. In case you have forgotten this thing, it will be slightly bit difficult to kind of retrieve it afterwards. So you'll be asked to set up your site name. May also tell you that aesthetics here is not a very important thing. Once you're setting up a Moodle LMS, aesthetics is not a consideration. If you see the top LMSs, even of MIT or Harvard or Pennsylvania, University of Pennsylvania, they have very small, very simple, lightweight themes installed. So, but in case you want to really make it its look and feel very rich, then you can probably do a lot of things for customizing its look and feel. For now, we are just going to give it a name. Let's suppose demo LMS FDP. What is the name of my? This is the name of your FD. This is the name of your this learning management system. So I'm giving the name demo LMS FDP. So I can give it a short name also. So demo. I can give some summary here. This is my. Somebody is trying to move my mouse. This is demo LMS. So I can go ahead, do some basic settings and proceed with the change. So, okay, here we go. The LMS has been installed. It's up on the server. What we can do now is we can start creating the users. We can start, doing all the site administrations that we will do. But before that, may I request all of the participants here to go on a Play Store, Google Play Store, and you will find Moodle. Just search for Moodle, and you will find Moodle there. Install Moodle because we'll be connecting you with this server. So once you install the Moodle, in the meantime, keep installing the Moodle, and I can. So some of you who may be looking at my screen will see that basically Google Moodle wants that all the institutes or people who are installing Moodle, they should be informed that Moodle has been installed so that they can add that particular site to their directory so that people can browse and see your instance at a global level for the global audience also. So it's asking for the Moodle registration. I'm not going to do this now because this particular demo is this particular instance of installation is only for the demo purposes. So we are not going to register it with the Moodle.net. Otherwise, normally you can register with the Moodle.net also. So having said that, we are now coming to something more specific. We can go to site administration. And the first thing we can do is create some users or create some courses. Let's try to create the first course. Now, there are different types of users. Some are called as course creators, some are called as managers, some are called as users. And what are the different kinds of roles you can create? You can go to the users tab and see define roles. You see by default, if you see Moodle has these roles, something called as manager. Manager is the one who can access course and modify them, but they do not actually participate in that course. Then you have something called as course creators. Course creators are the ones who create the course. Then for that particular course, you can have a teacher, and then you can have a non-editing teacher, a student, guest, authenticator. So there are different kind of roles that are defined. So once you define a particular user, you can assign a particular role to that user. Typically, once you create a student, you will assign him a student role. Once you create a teacher, you will assign him a teacher role. Once you create a course creator, so for example, head of the department of a particular department sets up a course, he can then assign teacher 1, 2, 3, any teacher who is currently teaching that particular course, right? And assign more than one teachers. So that is done under the role assignments. That can be done. But now let's for now go back to this dashboard and try to set up a simple course. So once we go to this, we go to site administration, we click on the courses, and we can now create a course. Now what I can do is I can basically come out of my this server, because I can now access it publicly. So I am coming out of my server, and I can go ahead, because I'll be a bit fast here. I can go ahead and access the same site publicly now. So I am accessing it from public domain, demo.edcwsupport, www.demo.edcwsupport.edu.in. So remember, I'm now accessing this LMS from outside the server. Okay, so this is on a public domain now. So any one of you can now access this. Right, here we go. Now this is a blank thing. Once you would like to configure this for your own institute or college, you can just customize it here. Right, there are a lot of customizations that you can do, but we generally keep a theme very simple. So then I go here and click login. I'm going to log in as admin. So I'm again logging in as admin. Yes. Yeah. And we will now give the site, and you will connect to this. Once I create the users, I'll give the site, because then next step it will be asking you for the username and password. So site is ready. We'll give it demo.gdcwsupport.edu.in. Next step would be, it will prompt you for username and password. But because we have not created that yet, please wait. What I did is I forgot the password, but I kept. So I'm just resetting my own admin password. Fortunately, I was logged in, so I don't know how many passwords are there in my head. So now I'm logging inside my admin from outside. So you can see that this is on a public domain now. Demo.gc is now. First of all, what we'll do is we'll try to set up some course, and then once we create the course, we'll start creating some users and assign those users to those courses. The first thing would be create a course. So you go to site administration and say create a course. There are a lot of things you can do. So first of all, we'll see manage. Let's first create a category, because every course needs a category. So let's suppose I create a category and I say it BG first semester. BG first semester. Let's suppose. So I create a category, and I'll show you why this is important. Once I am in this category, I can go ahead and say create a new course. Okay, Now I am creating a course. Let's suppose demo course for FDP. These are very important things that we must understand. This is demo course for FDP. We can give it a short name because this is a name that will appear on the left menu when students will be browsing it. So we call it demo course. And we are assigning it to DG first semester because we would like to organize our courses first semester, second semester, third semester, so that students find it easy for them to browse. So we show here, when do we want to start the course? Let's suppose we want to start the course today and we want to end this course on. Ending here or setting the dates is not going to change anything, but at least students, but yes, once we start the end the course will be inaccessible to the students, but we can always go in and modify these dates. So that's not a problem. This is the course ID. It's not very important, but once you have an integration with the external providers, you can use this course ID also. So let's suppose I say demo course DC1. DC1 is the ID. So I can say something. This is a demo course for the participants, okay, of this FDP. So I can go here and maybe add some pictures also to show how my course would look like. I can add some pictures also and then have a course format also. Now course format are certain things. Some course formats are topic format, like the typical case of us dealing with the students. We always have topic format. We have in a course lot of topics that we want to teach the students, but there are other types of course also. So then you define number of sections, how many sections it can have. So for example, if you organize your courses based on the units, for instance, in our syllabus, we have units. So if we organize it based on the units, you can say, I have 4 sections, unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4, and then organize the topics inside those. So it depends upon the way you would like to structure your course. So for them, let's leave it like number of sections as 4. Then there are certain these configurations. Do you want to hide the sections or do you want to collapse the sections once it's shown on the course page? All of those configurations is self-explanatory, and in case anytime you find some configuration which you're not able to follow, you can always say there's a help available. If you click on this small icon here, you'll be able to see the help. It tells you actually what it is and how it always gives you that help that is required. So what is the appearance of this course? How many announcements? And we will see in the course of this demo that there are concepts called as activity reports, called as grading, how students are graded, how activities are monitored. All those settings can be done here. And you can have some file uploads also. For instance, you would like to upload what is the syllabus of this course. We would like to have a PDF. Every time you find students coming to you, sir, mere paas syllabus hi nahi hai, syllabus ki copy de dijiye. Okay? So you can do it once for all. Your course is there, put up the syllabus there, it will be accessible to the students once for all. Then you can define the completion tracking. So whether you are tracking the completion of the course or not, but the student, whether he is following the course and how much the course he is able to complete. And then there is something called as groups. So what you can do is, if you have, let's suppose 80 students in a class, you can create 10 groups. Or let's suppose, for instance, we are doing students of the 6th semester normally do the projects. So once I create a project course, I can create, let's suppose 10 groups and put my users under these different groups. They can have different collaborations. They can have different activities that they can do as part of this course. So we can create groups also. But since I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, I'm trying to run you through most of the things. So I'm skipping, hoping that these are the things that should be self-explanatory and you can explore them if at all you choose to install Moodle in the due course of time. No, that we will do. That we will do from the admin. Okay. Yeah, you have put in the site. Now it's prompting you for username and password. Okay. That I'll create after I create the course. I'll create the username and password. Okay. So save and return. Okay. Now this course has been created. Okay. So you can now go on to this course, demo course for FDP. Okay. So, but before doing anything on this course, let me first create the user so that we can start that you can get started with the course itself. Okay. So users I can do in 2 ways. One way is I go to site administration and I go to users. Okay. And I say add a new user. Okay. And I give a username. Let's suppose हम Zahid साहब का user बनाएंगे. Zahid साहब, please assist me. So I give it name Zahid. Okay. That's going to be his username. Or ma'am, since you have installed also. Let me set up your user so that you can log in. What's ma'am? IRFANA, Irfana. Okay. I'm going to create one user Irfana, and I'm going to create a password. So the password is I is capital. Okay. @ FDP123. Okay. Now I have a reason I'm setting up this password, and I'll just tell you in a moment why I'm setting up this password. Okay. So the first name is Irfana, and I'm just keeping your name as ma'am, Irfana ma'am, and email address is please IRFANA Irfana SHOWQI@gmail.com. Okay. So okay, ma'am. QI@gmail.com. Please verify if this is correct. Irfana Shuki@gmail. Please remember that if you have a G Suite deployed in your college, or institute has a G, like we have a G Suite deployed. So all our students have a customized email. Let's suppose I have a student Zubair. So his email in my college is zubair@gdcwsopo.edu.in. Now you also understand the essence of having an email ending with .edu.in. If you apply for any scholarships, fellowships, they don't recognize you if you write baramulacollege.com. So they'll say this .com, we don't know. Once you have a domain like .edu.in, it is acknowledged by officially by the top institutes, by educational bodies. So I'll encourage that if you set up accounts for your students or for your teachers also, set up them with the .edu.in. Now for that, you'll have to go to Ministry of Information and Technology, create a domain, they authorize this, whether or not, validate this, whether or not this is a valid institution. And then you can set up the free emails using G Suite or Google Suite, whatever you would like to do. So having these personal emails is not encouraged always. So you can have whatever way you want. Anyway, I'm just trying to, maybe it's bit, if you're running out of time, or we still have the time. Okay, so we are setting up some things, basic things here, which you can always come back and do later. So there's an option if you want your email to be displayed publicly or not. So you can configure all those things. Upload your picture also, whatever you want to do, and do like things. So please remember, ma'am, your this password. Okay, I might forget it. Password, password I gave you, I is capital @FDP123. Okay, so I am just creating your user here. Okay, now I have a Irfana ma'am here as a user. Now this user, listen. Now what happens in a for instance? No, I have not. It takes a bit of time. This because I'll have to do another configuration here to allow it a login from the mobile. I have to do one more settings to allow, and I have to do one more setting also. Like for instance, in a college or in a institution, you have 1,000 students, and those students in the journey of their college, they change different courses. So a course is always associated with a student. A student has to be assigned a course. For now, Irfana is a student, but we have not assigned her any course. So we can always go back. We can always go back to the course, site administration, course, and then choose the course that we were managing. The demo course in this case is BG first semester. So we have this course, demo course, and now I want that Irfana ma'am has to be added to this course. So I go here and say edit. Once I say edit, sorry, not this. This is for editing the course. I go back. This is the tool. So I go back to site administration. I go to courses. I go to manage courses. I check the first semester courses. I go, all first semester courses will be listed here. Accordingly, once you create first semester, second semester, third semester, fourth semester, sixth, they will be listed here. Once you click on a particular semester, all the courses registered under those semesters will be listed here. So demo course for this, and I'm going to go to enrolled users. As of now, there is no enrolled users, and I'm now going to enroll users in this course. I click here, enroll users. It says which user do you want to enroll. I can go ahead and search for Irfana. So Irfana ma'am is here. Okay. and demo LMS admin is also here. Okay, so I'm just registering myself also for this course so that I can take you to the next thing. Let me first have Irfana ma'am only registered as a student for this course, because the roles I have defined is teacher, student, manager. So I'm registering her as a student, so enroll the users. Now you see, for this course, Irfana ma'am has been registered. Now I'm again going back and registering myself as a teacher. So I'm saying demo LMS admin, register myself as a teacher. So, okay, here we go. We have now 2 users assigned for this particular course. One is Irfana ma'am, another is this. Irfana is a student and myself, the teacher there. Okay, all right. So let's go back to site administration so that ma'am can now log in to the site. Okay. So for that, what we have to do is to, first of all, allow the people to log in from the mobile apps. So we have to go to mobile apps and mobile settings. So once we go to mobile settings, we go down here and say enable web services for mobile devices. Okay, so that this mobile device can connect to the server and he will be authenticated. User will be authenticated. So I'm just clicking it yes. Normally, what we do is whenever we try to access a third-party service, we give some terms and conditions for a student to apply. So you can define your terms and conditions, have it hosted on a server, let him accept those terms and conditions before he actually logs onto that server. So you can define a URL on the URL on which you have kept your terms and conditions. Put that URL here, and once he will try to log in, he will be first prompted that you have to accept these terms and conditions before you proceed. Okay. Sometimes we tend to take these things a bit casually, but I have had some experiences that sometimes you have to be extra professional in the things, right? You never know what comes that's thrown to you. So students sometimes say, why was my picture displayed on the course? His father comes and says, oh, my daughter's picture was, let's suppose hypothetically, that's not going to be a scenario because it's always a login based thing. But let's suppose we have seen the case of cyberbullying. We have found that we used to create WhatsApp groups. In that WhatsApp group, we would have boys and girls also. Now, sometimes a boy writes something to a girl. Now his parents come up and say, hey, why is somebody doing this? Now we need to tell them, okay, we are operating in this mode. If you're operating in this mode, we need to accept these things. You know, we cannot control cyberbullying. So these things sometimes become, so I will advise you, even if we skip it here, but normally we should go and try to be more professional in these things. So I'm just saving it here. Now, ma'am, you should be able to log in. And once ma'am validates she is able to log in, I have basically done something else.
Oh, very good.
Just try to see I is capital. Your at the rate of FDP 123. Yes, try it again, ma'am. Should be fine. Should be a small change. You're logged in. Okay, so if you go down, you will be able to see the courses because I've already enrolled in one course, demo course for LMS FDP. Okay, so what I did is I requested Irshad Saab yesterday to give me a list of all the participants for in this particular course. Okay, so what I had done is basically on my existing LMS, I had configured all of the users' account. So since this was a hands-on session, so I thought it's going to take me a bit of time to actually get you along. So I have created one option for me is to switch back to that LMS and let all of the users use that LMS right away before actually start creating individual users. Option 2 is I can basically do it in a quick way. I can bulk upload all the users. Okay, so there's a provision. Suppose in a college you have 3,000 students. You'll not be able to create 3,000 individual accounts. You can have one Excel and bulk upload all the users. So what I did yesterday is at my home, I was preparing for this demo. I had a list of users that was provided to me by the organizers of this course. And from this list, basically, I created accounts of all the users. So if you see it here, usernames are like these. So all the users have these usernames, and usernames is what? How I have extracted the username, whatever your email is. Anything before @ is your username. Okay, so anybody can log into the account using the username same, which is your email, minus @ and the domain. And what is the password? The password is the first letter of that email in the uppercase, followed by @ FDP123, because I had to make it unique. So I had to find a way out in order to create unique passwords. So what I chose as a format is the first letter of your email in the uppercase, followed by @ followed by FDP123. All these users have already created on my other official LMS. So I'm going to take you there. LMS. Why I'm switching over to that is because if I start creating individual users, it might take a lot of time, and basically we have a lot of things to explore, so I can just quickly get you started. So lms.gdcwsupport.edu.in. So we have in our colleges 2 LMS systems. One LMS is on-premise. So on-premise is because we didn't have internet and we had a lot of trouble. So we were using LMS on our own network. Students were accessing LMS. But then we also created one on our public server. So we have these courses that are already running in our college. And I guess enrolled you for this. So in case you have already installed Moodle, so you can just put in this website, www. I'm just going to write it here, and you can log on to the server. I'm just going to write it here, http www.lms.gdcwsupport.edu.in. So using this URL, if you have actually installed Moodle, which I asked you to do, if you have done it and you want to have a real-time experience of this, try to connect to this website. Okay, and on that website, use the same username and password that I gave to you here. So your username is your email minus @ and domain, and your password is this. So if you're able to log in to that, I'm not logging in as a teacher to this section because I will demonstrate something more to you. So I'm logging in as teacher. Okay, so here I am. I have this ongoing course on computer organization and architecture. So the first thing that you do is you create topics. For example, if you have a syllabus and you have 4 units, you can say unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, and unit 4. You create the topics. And how do we create those topics? You have an option here. You go to the course right-hand side, and there's an option called as editing. Turn on the settings. Turn editing on. Once you turn the editing on, you can go down and add topics. Okay, like I have already added these topics: registers, instruction set, timing and control, instruction cycle. So you can go ahead and keep adding the topics. Okay, so once you have adding the topics, now I will come to something which is very nice. Let's suppose I am adding a topic here. There's this topic called as instruction cycle. Okay, now in this topic, I can add a lot of activities, which is a strength. The backbone of Moodle is activities. Now imagine what I am going to show to you is something mind-blowing. So once you define a topic, what can you actually do? With that topic, you can add an activity. So this is something called as add an activity. Let's suppose I defined unit 1. Okay, and I'm adding my first topic to this first activity to this topic. Once I add an activity, what can be done? So I can add an assignment. I can add a chat room. Let's suppose I want my students to discuss a particular topic at any given point of time, and I give them 10 minutes to discuss. But I don't want them to use any like WhatsApp extra. So I create a chat room for 5 minutes. Okay, so I can define a chat room. I can create a choice. Choice is, let's suppose I have my students in the class, all of them having a mobile phone with this Moodle setup, and I'm teaching something, and in the middle of something, I'm basically asking them a question. Who was the first president of United States of America? Okay, and I've already curated the resources. I'm not having it done there. I have already structured my curriculum in such a way that when I'm teaching this particular topic, I throw this question open to the students. So I can create a choice. So I can throw this question to students, give the 4 options, and let them answer the questions. I can in real time see who has answered what. and how many students correctly answered that question. So if my topic spans for 40 minutes, and in the course of my 40 minutes, I'm able to put 4 multiple choice questions to students to just gauge if at all my students are following what I'm teaching them. So I can have an instant real-time response system in place from within my classroom. So that's technology in the classroom. Then, so different kinds of activities you can, maybe I'll be able to create some of them here. So then you have another activity that's called a database activity. In a database activity, let's suppose you're teaching the students of journalism and you want to create a photo competition. You want students to go out and take some pictures of something and want to create a sort of competition or find who's the best photograph. You can create a competition and create a database of those images and let the people rank those images and who is the best, who's the student who has created the best photograph in a particular session, or use it for 100 different kinds of use cases. So there is something called an external tool. External tool is, for example, you want to link to some other resource. So you can always go ahead and create a resource and link that resource to this. There's something called as feedback. So this is something that I really like personally. If I have in my class, let's say 100 students, and I don't know what those students are thinking about me, my teaching skills, my conduct in a classroom. If I want, and my course creator, let's suppose I have an apprehension, don't create anything bad about me. My course creator wants to know about the feedback of a teacher, how he's feeling in the teacher, how he's doing the classroom, or he creates a feedback activity, and he lets the students to know how the teacher is performing in a classroom, or you basically able to understand his concept. So a course creator can create anonymous feedbacks. Only he will be able to see. This will typically be, let's suppose, your IQAC coordinator of the college. IQAC coordinator of the college wants to assess the performance of teachers. So he can create a feedback activity, and feedback activity will tell us how teachers perform. So similarly, forums. Let's suppose you want to create a something. So you can create a forum activity. You can have a glossary. Glossary means if you have, let's say I'm teaching computer science architecture. Computer science architecture, a lot of terms, and I want to create an index of those terms, so that students can always refer when I'm using that term in my lesson plan or in my assignment. You can always have a link back on that. Link back to and check what does this mean. I can create a glossary. I can create a glossary activity. I'm teaching, let's suppose, physics, and I'm using a term in my lesson plan, thermodynamics, or I'm using a term projectile motion. So my student is basically learning this lesson and he stumbles on this topic always. So student wants, I don't know what is projectile motion. He clicks on that, he goes to this glossary. Glossary will tell him what this projectile motion is. So basically, yeah, small definition, correct, like that. So you can create a lesson. In a lesson plan, what do you do is that you basically read 5 pages of a particular topic. But you want him, let's suppose topic number 2, he should only study when he completes topic number 1. And when he completes topic number 1, he should be taking this quiz. Once he completes this quiz, then only he should take topic number 2. And like this, he should go on and on and on. So you can create a complete lesson plan. Let's suppose we want to create a quiz in a student, so a quiz of 50 questions, 40 questions. You can create a quiz. You can create Scrum package. I'll not discuss it for now. Probably beyond the scope of this LMS that we are rolling out. Surveys or something, we know surveymonkeys.com, or you want to take a survey of students on something. Surveys are different from feedbacks. On a feedback, you can define your own questions. On a survey, you can basically link some standard external surveys. A researcher can create a survey, or a researcher can basically engage in a survey from outside. Okay. So if you see at these activities, they are basically grouped into 2. One is called as activity, another is called as resource. So fundamental difference is that activities here is something in which student is engaged, actively engaged. So interactive, it's more of an interactive in nature. So you're expecting responses coming from the students. But if you look at these resources, this is more of a monologue. It's more of a monotone. So it's a material oriented thing. So you can, share material, files, labels. Let's suppose you want to share. Let's suppose we start with a URL. Okay, let's create a first activity. So I'm creating an activity. I want students to learn about Moodle. What is Moodle? Okay. What is Moodle? So what I want to go to, let's suppose, Wikipedia. I will link Wikipedia page. So I want student to read this particular page for this. Okay, so I can just copy it. I can go here and say, what is Moodle? I will just say external URL is this. Okay, and then I can say description. This page talks about Moodle. Okay, then remember, for every activity there are lots of settings that you can do, lots of settings. I mean, sky is the limit here. So how do you want this to be displayed? For example, I'm a course creator and I'm creating and curating my content. So what I want is that this thing should not be rolled out on a real time. I first want to curate all my resources. They will be set to invisible. I can roll them out in a phased manner. As I progress with my course, I can roll out and I can control on the display of it. Different variables. You can define height, width parameters of this particular, how it should appear, and restrict access. Now you want student to be able to see particular thing only if he has already done something else. Let's suppose you want him to first know about LMS, and once he knows LMS, then only he should read Moodle. So you won't have a restricted access. You can create restrictions. You can say add a restriction. Now what can you do? How can you do the restrictions? You can say I restrict this to the student only after a particular activity is completed. So you can define which activity. You may have created an activity earlier wherein you wanted him to read about what is LMS. So that activity will be, since I'm not creating any activity as of now, is the first activity. Otherwise, you will see, okay, since I'm creating, so I have already created this activity. So I want him that this activity should be visible only to him once he may have completed this activity. And this activity should be only visible to him if I have marked him. Suppose I want to take his exam. I can take his exam only if he has completed this much of thing. So I can have a restricted access. I can control minutely how this thing should be displayed to the user, when and how this should be displayed to the user. So all these things can be done. So then you can define how this activity is completed. For example, if there's a student, he says, I have already done it. So can student mark this completed activity, or can you actually assess whether or not this activity has been completed? So you can define how this activity is declared as completed. Student can define it declared as completed, or a teacher can define it declared as completed. There are ways to define that. And then you can also set up some time as to when this should be enabled, this activity should be enabled, all these things, and define tags. Now there is concept of competencies. Competencies define how you can define some rubric, and inside the rubric you define how you define what are the competencies the student is learning as you progress in the course of year. So you can define competencies. Once those things are defined, you can say that if he has completed this particular course, you can say his competency for this course is this much. Okay. So you can go ahead for now, because we are trying to keep it as simple as possible. So I'm saving it and returning to here. Now, if you look in your own system, you should be able to see there's an activity called as what is Moodle. So if a student clicks on what is Moodle, he will click here and he will straight away land on this page. Okay, right? So this is one activity that we created. Another activity that we create here is, let's suppose I create an assignment. Okay, so I want a student to submit an assignment. I can go ahead and add an assignment. So this is assignment #1. Okay, on multi-point bus structure. Multi-point. Okay. So you can describe what you want student to do, and typically if we have to set up an assignment, we define a file. So I can upload a file. So I can upload a file. Let's suppose I go here, and let's suppose I go and phonograms. Let's suppose I'm just hypothetically creating something. So now this, and now I can say when this assignment should be available, and what's the due date, what's the cutoff date, and once it is done, the teacher has to be reminded when he should start grading those assignments. So you can define all those dates here. I will leaving it to the default, whatever they are, and then you can define submission types. So once the student gets the assignment, how he can submit it? Can he do an online text? Sometimes you want him to write in the app itself, or you would like him to upload a file. So you can define file submissions. If you define file submissions, you'll be also see what are the accepted file types. For now, let's say that I'm saying is a file submission. If it's an online text, you can define what should be the word length of this. So then how many files he should be able to. Let's suppose I want him to just upload single file, and what should be the maximum size of that file. So somebody should not try to spam you. If someone is trying to spam you, he will keep uploading big files. So we can limit what should be the maximum size of file he should be able to upload. And then accepted file types. So I can say whether images are accepted, PDFs are accepted, docs are accepted. There are a lot of file types that you can see. So you can see all these file types. Whichever file type you want him to upload, you can define it here. So let's suppose I want him to upload some document file. So it could be a Google Doc, or it could be a PDF, anything like that. Okay. So WordX or a PDF. I want him to be able to upload any of these files. So this, ideally, what should have been, I would wish this session, this workshop was done in a offline mode where the participants are there and they can do it in a real time thing. You may be listening to this monologue from me. I don't know how many of you are actually following it and how many are actually there listening to me. But typically, these are the things. If you take Moodle trainings outside, these are done in a lab environment so that students do it, teachers do it real time, so they learn the things. But anyway, I hope you can always, if in case you're interested, you can always learn it. There are a lot of resources available there. So you can say feedback types. Feedback types, once a student has uploaded a particular assignment, how would you like to register a kind of feedback to him? Suppose you set him an assignment and he submitted an assignment. Now we are going through his assignment. Now you want to tell the student, okay, you wrote this incorrectly. This should be done like this. This should be done like this. Okay. So how do you want to send the feedback? Do you want to just write the comments, or alternatively, what you can do is you can have his PDF, mark your comments on that and resend that PDF to him. So you can say feedback files. Okay. And there's a beautiful way to do this. I mean, it's mind blowing. Even if you have 100 students, you can download 100 files in one go. You can go through 100 files, put up your comments, zip them again, upload them again, and in one go, all the response will be sent to all the students. This is amazingly beautiful feature that Moodle offers. So then you have submission settings, like once a student upload a file, do you require him to click a submission? We experienced it in time of pandemic when we were taking the exams. We had the students, so do you want to reassure student that he's in the final stage of submission? So you want to create a setting that put a button, okay, I want to submit it now. Or should it submit cursively? Like he upload the file, save, okay. But do you actually want to enforce him and sensitize him that you're submitting something very valuable, or you're sure about it that you actually want him to submit it? I mean, there is such a huge fine-grained control on these things that if you learn and acclimatize yourself with these things, there are absolutely a lot of things to offer. But anyway, I'm not going to take much of your time. So then there are notifications. Whenever an assignment is submitted, a teacher gets notified or a student gets notified. Then you can basically do gradings. Gradings, if you've seen an international arena, educational arena, we do gradings in two types. One is called a single point grading, another is called as rubrics. You define rubrics. In a rubrics, you can define a slightly different type of grading. So if those gradings are defined, you can set up that if a student does this, what grade I am going to give that student. Okay. So you have to define that grading method also. Okay. You can see that simple direct grading, marking grading, and rubrics. What I used to do is I would send assignments to my students over a period of 6 months or 5 months. In the course of this, I would give them 5 assignments or 6 assignments. By the time their internal examinations would come, I would just see in one go what has been the performance of my students over the course of last 6 months, how serious he has been with respect to his studies. All these things get accumulated. All these things are available to you and you have insights. So, agar insan वैसे आप करूँ, if you really want to do something about it, it can really make your life beautiful. So, anyway, these are gradings you can do. So then there's some other module settings. If you want to give it a particular group, you can define which group and then have a restricted access also, as I also talked about, how you can control which should be seen by what. So again, you can define activity completion, how you define the completion of actors, some tags and competencies that I've already talked about. So if you click on this and return, so you can see that now this assignment is available. If you log on from your own devices, this assignment, you can refresh it and this assignment will be available. So you can download that file and see to it. Yeah, in the dashboard. You go to course, refresh. Yeah, the course for which you have been registered. Demo course in your case. If you click on that, that assignment will be there now. Right? Demo LMS and then No. As a student, because we have already enrolled you as students. Yes, you should be able to see it. If not, you can show it to me. Huh? You have logged into which you have used. Which account did you use? It's logged in as what? That may be a teacher account. That may be a teacher account. That's why it's showing a teacher. But anyway, the point is that once you define this assignment here, you can see these assignments. Huh? Everything of it is reflected. So let me show you one something that maybe is of some interest to you. Let's suppose I have this assignment here. I have already created one assignment, and if I look at these submissions, I have 27 students have already submitted this assignment. So if I can go here, and you see these students have already submitted the assignment, right? So they have completed this task. Okay. So I can go and see who has done what. No, this assignment has been assigned to them. Submissions have been made. Some have uploaded the files, but it is not yet graded. So I can go ahead and grade these assignments also. Let's suppose this student here, right? She has uploaded this assignment, and I can go ahead and check the assignment. Okay, and see it, what she has done, and do some grading also. So similarly, this was about assignments. You can add other different types of activities also. Let's suppose you want to set up a YouTube link and you want student to watch the video and watch, or maybe add some file or add some page, or create a folder where you want to set up the content repository. All of this can be done. It needs a bit of it has a learning curve. We have to read it, we have to explore it. But if we do it and do it over a period of time, let's say 1 year down the line, we can say that we know things a bit. We can start using these things and hopefully make the make things better for all of us. I think I leave it there because there's a lot of things that we can do, but I don't know how much you are following and how much time I have. I was told that I'll have to finish by 1:30, and I'm already, I guess, half an hour. I would like maybe have an opinion poll also from students if they would like me to continue, or we can maybe call it a day, or maybe take questions also. If at all there is anyone still connected to us. So, ma'am, can we take the questions of the moderator? Huh?
Now this session is for question and answers. Please, if anyone have any query, any question about the Moodle and about all this that has been talking about, so please put forth your query, please. Is there any query, please? I don't think someone is having any issue.
No, there is a lot of issues. I mean,
Yes.
no doubt about that. But the matter remains that this is an elementary 101 talk. So if you basically would like to deep dive into Moodle, we can maybe have an extended workshop exclusive on Moodle. Even if no university trainers, it's something that's done over a period of 1 month at least, because a lot of I try to install also, give a motivational part also of my LMS, and then talk about install Moodle also, and then take you through. But what I can promise you, and what I can say to all of the participants here is that try it out. Just try out, not specifically Moodle, try out any LMS. It's definitely going to make your life better. I'm pretty sure that अगर हम 10 साल के बाद आपको देखिए हमने चीजों पे काम किया होगा, it will definitely not be extended release. एक last में slide
जरूर most welcome.
So this is something that I would like to add a last note. This guy who often students do take new devices and expect them to transform the education. So in the context of what I'm saying here is, whereas we have been asked to upgrade ourselves in different technologies, we need to be backed up by training. We need to be professionally trained for these things and expect us to transform the things. By just merely providing infrastructure, digital infrastructure, not providing medical training for the teachers, is something that kind of puts us in trouble. So I would encourage the head administration to organize training for the teachers, professional training, so that they can, upskill themselves in order to make themselves more relevant in the time to come. And that's what I formally conclude the session. And I say thank you to all, and it's very clear.
So on behalf of all the participants of this workshop, I wish to express my gratitude to our guest speaker, Professor Zubair Masoodi Saab, for such an informative, elaborative, extensive, exhaustive talk on the different LMSs, particularly the Moodle. He made us understand about the Moodle, about how to install it, how to run it, and how to deal it with our students using the Moodle. And and he also made us aware about the different features that Moodle offers. And really, thank you so much, sir. Thank you once again so much. And I wish also to express my heartfelt thanks to all the participants for their cooperation and for their patience. Thank you so much.
Allah.